Hi there, thanks for joining me today. So for today's practice, you'll actually need to have two blocks. If you don't have blocks, then have two books that are the same size. They have to be quite thick books as well. So if you need to go and grab them, just grab them now. Otherwise, have your blocks beside you. We're going to start in a seated position and I want you to use one of your blocks. So coming up onto your block, letting the hips sit right down on the block, and you can have whichever leg on in front to begin with. So today's practice is really focusing on just your posture and building up a little bit of upper body strength as well. So resting the hands down on the legs, sitting up on a block or a cushion allows the hips to be a little bit higher than the knees, and that helps you to just lift up out of the waist a little bit. So resting the hands down, and let's close down the eyes to begin with. Just feeling the weight of your seat pressing down into the block underneath you. Just picturing your spine in your mind's eye. So deep down into the pelvis, the tailbone, the sacrum, the lower back, the middle back, the upper back, the neck. And imagine that energy continuing up and out through the crown of the head. Allow the breathing to be easy. With each inhale, imagining space being created in between each vertebra. Just making sure that you're not dropping down the lower back. So have a sense of lifting up. And then let's open the eyes. Place the hands on your lower ribs and then the thumbs on your back ribs. So this is the base of your ribs. It's kind of a oval type shape. And often we tend to poke these ribs out a little bit, which is something that I often do. You want to have that sense of softening those floating ribs in, and the thumbs help you to lift up through the back ribs. So softening the floating ribs in, climbing up through the back ribs. Yeah, so that's softening in and climbing up, and then maybe that will give you a little bit more length already. Yeah, and then trying to keep that softening in, climbing up through the back ribs. So let the hands drop down and have a sense of the ears being in line with the shoulders being in line with the hips. So kind of finding that central axis. So that helps you find your posture, and that's going to be slightly different for everyone. So there's no perfect posture. You just work with wherever your body's at. And so we're just going to take a few moments here just thinking about that, letting those floating ribs soften in, back ribs climbing up, crown of the head reaching up. Just for 3 breaths. And then let's start to come off the block and grab your other one and bring it out in front of you. Place them flat down and long. And let's start with the right leg in front and try to overcross the legs a little bit now. So don't have them too close in and the shins are a little bit further away. So we're going to just work a little bit on lengthening out through the sides of the waist. Just bringing the hands down onto your blocks and then slide them away to where you can. Keep those sitting bones down. Keep growing out through both sides of the waist, taking an inhale. As you exhale, maybe you can start to keep going a bit further and a bit further just to where you can. Holding it here. Seal the palms of the hands down on your blocks. Try to imagine pressing down and away with the hands, but at the same time, draw the energy up into the shoulder sockets. Keep the breath easy. And can you have a sense of how this growing happens out through the sides of the body? So the arms are connected in to the sides of the waist here. So you're lengthening away, but also drawing in. And then let's take an inhale, coming back up. And we'll just swap the legs around straight away. So taking your left leg in front. Once again, try to overcross the feet a little bit and then take those hands onto your blocks, keeping those sitting bones down, those floating ribs in, back ribs climbing up. Take an inhale, exhale, start to slide those blocks away. Keep lengthening out through both sides of the waist. Just to where you can, and then holding it there. Pressing down through the palms of the hands. Try not to crowd the neck with your shoulders, so let the muscles at the base of the neck release away from the ears. And then inhale, coming back up. Take the blocks by your sides. So you want them by your hips and you want to have them long, just on that middle height, so you can very easily place your weight onto these blocks, okay? And nice and close. And we're gonna start by lifting up through the entire spinal column, draw the elbows in. So you wanna squeeze them in and press the shoulder heads back. So keep squeezing them in, the elbows in. And then from here, we're gonna press up to lift the seat, inhaling, and then exhale, sitting back down. And again, inhale to lift, and then exhale to sit back down. You're gonna lift through the belly, lift through the pelvic floor. Inhale to lift, and then exhale to lower. And again, inhale, lift, shoulders away from the ears, and then exhale to lower. Let's go again. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower. We'll go two more. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower. And last one. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower. Let's release those blocks away from you a little bit. Give the shoulders a few circles out. Change direction. And then hands behind you, let's just swap the legs around. So having your right leg in front now. Yeah. And then let's bring those blocks back in. We're going to go again with this strengthening work. Pressing down through the heels of the hands, fingers are pointing forward. Squeeze those elbows in. So we're just going to start by just squeezing those elbows in, floating ribs in, back ribs climbing up, lengthen up through the entire sides of the waist. Find the breath. And I'm going to press down into the hands, take an inhale, lift through the pelvic floor, lift through the belly, and then exhale to lower back down. And again, inhale to lift, exhale to lower. And again, inhale, lift, exhale to lower. And again. Let's go four more. Inhaling and exhale. Inhale and exhale. We've got two more. And last one. Let's finish by drawing those elbows in once again, floating ribs in, shoulder heads back. And then let's release those blocks off to the side. Release the arms down by your side. Give the shoulders a few circles out. And other way. So coming over onto the knees. And let's get your blocks, pop the blocks side by side. So they're together. And then bring the elbows down onto your blocks, palms of hands together. And then walk your knees back so they're underneath the hips, sealing the palms together and drawing those hips back. Let the floating ribs draw in. And focus on your breathing. If you're a very flexible person, you might just be collapsing through the shoulder girdle. So you really want to support the pose by drawing the front of the body away from the mat. And if you feel very tight in the shoulders, this might be quite an intense pose. Just try to stay with the breath. If you need to come out, then just come out whenever you need to. Keep the back of the neck long. Just take one more full breath here. And then starting to come back up over those elbows. Just come up onto the hands. Just be nice and slow about coming out of that pose. And then let's pop the blocks out of the way. And then come down onto your forearms, interlacing the fingers, elbow, shoulder distance apart. So we're going for our dolphin. If dolphin is too much for you, then just keep the knees together, tuck the toes under, and you might just hover the knees off and then come back down. Hover the knees off and then come back down. Just holding for as long as you can with the knees off. Full variation, lifting those hips up towards the ceiling. If possible, walk the feet in a little bit closer, somewhere where you can comfortably hold it for about 8 breaths. Try to draw the quadriceps up. And the elbows want to splay out to the side a little bit. You want to have a sense of those armpits wrapping in to face one another. Crown of the head is off the mat. 3 more full breaths. And then let's come back down to the knees. Everyone, release the toes. Bring the forehead down. Arms down by your side. Feel free to pop a block underneath the forehead if you need a bit of space. Just letting the breath recover. We're going to do that one more time. So extending those arms out, coming onto all fours for a moment. Come down to the forearms, interlacing the fingers, pressing down through the outsides of the wrists, knees together, tucking the toes under. You might just hover the knees off, otherwise coming up into your dolphin. Walk the feet into where you can. Try to lift the heels up as high as you can. Got 4 more breaths. And then coming down onto the knees. Well done. Release the toes. Take those arms down by your side. Forehead resting down. Just letting the arms and the shoulders really relax now. Taking those hands away from you, coming up into your tabletop position. Separate the knees hip distance apart, tuck the toes under. Come into your down facing dog. We're not going to hold it, we're going to walk the hands back towards the feet. Soften through the knees so the feet are parallel, letting the head relax down. And 2 different options here. We're just going to do one more thing. You could take hold of forearm or opposite elbow if this is enough for you. If you would like to interlace the fingers, pressing the heels, the hands together, try to take the hands away from the back. Make sure that the neck isn't contracting here, so letting the head really relax down. Trying to press the heels, the hands together. Take one more inhale, stay for the exhale, see if there's any more space to come a bit further away, and then maybe release, well not maybe, just let's release the hands all the way down. Soften through the knees, take a spinal roll to come all the way up. coming all the way up to standing. Just taking a few easy deep breaths here, just letting the weight drop down into the feet. And there's that soft bend through the knees. We're not locking out the knees, which makes us hyperextend into the lower back. Tailbone is dropping down. And then we're going to take those hands to those floating ribs again, take the thumbs to the back ribs, and just like we did at the beginning, we're going to let those floating ribs soften as the back ribs climb up. So floating ribs soften, back ribs climb up, crown of the head reaching up, growing through both sides of the waist. You might feel a little bit more length in the lower back as you take this action. And then releasing the arms down by your side. And again, you want to have the ears in line with the shoulders, shoulders in line with the hips, hips in line with the ankle. So that's a sense of your central axis point. And so just being mindful, not tuck chin, not jutting forward or slumping the chest down like this. So you want to have a sense of, even those floating ribs are dropping down, sternum keeps lifting up. Yeah? Let's take one more deep breath in together. Exhaling completely. So thank you so much for joining me for today's practice. I will see you next time.